What's going on, guys? I'm a regular guy with the Regular Guy Firearms channel. Thanks for watching. Okay. So, begin a couple of comments and questions regarding something that used to be like a really freaking big deal not too far back, and it's regarding absolute co-witness versus 1/3 co-witness. Okay, so here it is. First we gotta go ahead and explain what the two are. So, an absolute co-witness is this, where on your rifle optic, right, the mount brings it as high, or meaning just as high, as your irons, meaning your front and rear iron sight float in the center of the glass of the optic, right? Now, a lot of guys like this for a lot of reasons, but there is another type of mount that really helps out for a lot of optics, especially optics that don't have issues with the dot floating around randomly in the glass and having parallax issues. Now, parallax issues are the following. You know, if the dot isn't floating exactly in the center of the glass, meaning you have the optic tilted, the rifle tilted in such a way to where the optic is not, or I'm sorry, the red dot in the glass is over to the left or right side or whatever, but if you don't have parallax issues, or a lot of parallax issues, which like aim points and neotechs are really good at, wherever that dot is floating in the glass, doesn't really matter. As long as you do your job behind the trigger, it's going to hit what you're shooting at, right? Now, for a lot of optics that are really good quality, meaning pretty much wherever that dot floats in the glass, a lot of people have made different mounts. Now, there are a lot of different mounts out there that have lower 1/3 co-witnesses, meaning your iron is in the lower third of the glass itself. You can actually see it pretty obviously here, because this Midwest Industries iron sight rear is basically in the lower third. Okay. Now, there's a lot of different reasons why guys are just kind of like, oh, well, I just prefer one or the other. I'm personally just going to go ahead and let you guys know that I personally prefer a lower 1/3. And the reason why I personally prefer a lower 1/3 is that it offers more advantages over a absolute co-witness. Okay. The number one being that it's just out of the way. Okay, you can still use the dot and all that other stuff with your irons, or your front irons still folded up, or if it's a standard M4 carbine, you're going to have the front sight base there anyway, and the dot itself clears that sight and all the other junk that might be on your rifle at once. Okay, you guys see the D-ball 2 up here, so the optic itself is just physically raised a little bit higher above all of that, and you can still maintain a really good cheek weld on the rifle, meaning you're not forced to do really weird chin weld type shit. Okay, so all the stuff is out of the way. Okay, that's the first real advantage that I can think of. The second one has to do more with soldier and law enforcement types, and that has to do with night vision, or not, right? Now, for guys that use it left or right-handed, for night type whatever, you're going to want something like a D-ball 2 in there, and you want to use an infrared laser. That's just the primary way to do it. You just kind of shoulder the rifle, keep your head above all the bull crap, keep the light on, keep the infrared laser on, and that's what you're using, for me anyway, as a primary when you're messing around with not. However, that isn't always the case, and especially if you're in a cold environment, the batteries do eventually die, right? So, what you're going to have to do is fish that big old frickin' night vision device behind that rifle optic, okay? And that poses a little bit of a problem, because it's this big frickin' thing that you now have to fish behind your optic, and it's always really difficult and annoying, but having the optic slightly higher does help you a little bit. Okay. And the third and the lesser known advantage is that it has to do with planning for a worst possible case scenario. Okay, now red dot optics, especially aim points, are great. They last a real long time. A lot of guys get worried about stuff like batteries and stuff. Okay, so let's go through this. Let's say that the battery dies, right? Or whatever reason you have an electrical problem, something like that, and the dot turns off, right? For whatever reason, the dot turns off. And let's make it even worse. You're inside of a house. You don't have time to rip the optic off with your quick release, whatever it is. But now you still have to end up using your rifle. Well, what's kind of neat is that you can use your iron sights still, and with the lower 1/3 you can use the real old school close range iron sight shooting technique, where instead of looking straight through your irons, you just tilt the rifle a little bit to where the base of your front sight is above your rear sight. And the best way to illustrate this is to use the whiteboard, because everybody likes the whiteboard since I got it. Okay, so you have your rear sight, right? Your rear sight aperture, and ordinarily your front sight post goes right through the center of that thing. Well, in close quarters, this is stuff I was actually taught in basic training that I'm aware that they don't teach anymore, which is retarded. But instead, the very base of your front sight block is right here, and then your front sight post is right here. And then you have your little ears that come out. Okay, and you basically stand it on top of that rear sight. Okay, let me move my light so that you guys can see this a little bit better. But basically, that's your rear sight and that's your front sight post. And whatever it is you're shooting at, you're using your front sight post for. And the reason why this works in close quarters out to even like 25 yards is because ordinarily at close ranges we have to force a holdover. And the reason for that being is that you're so close that your sights that are zeroed for 50 yards and stuff there is a height over bore issue. The height of your front sight post over the bore of your rifle. Okay. So what you end up having to do is hold a little bit higher with your red dot or whatever it is. Not that big of a deal, but it's the difference between, for instance, being able to take a proper headshot, like right in the nose, and ending up having your impact in like the jaw area. And if you're in the jaw area and stuff, or if you're turned a little bit and you're still trying to take a critical shot, it's something that could that's a survivable wound, because getting shot in the face is different from getting shot in the brain. Makes sense? So instead of having to make the holdover by doing one of these numbers, you could just tilt the rifle a little bit to where your front sight post is standing on top of your rear sight, and then you can shoot with your irons that way. The cool thing about lower 1/3 mounts is that you can do that with absolute co-witness mounts. And yes, I've tried this on like aim point comp M4s, like the standard M68 issue optics and stuff like that, and other optics with absolute co-witness mounts, is that you really can't do that. Because the sealing of the optic is just all in the way of your front sight post. And while that is a rare issue, right, it's still something that could be a factor when Murphy's Law takes over and everything starts going really fucking wrong. So, it's just another thing. And basically the only thing that it really gives you is that it gives you just a little bit more height so you can clear all the bull crap on your rifle and still use your irons to their full potential, closer, long range, or whatever it is. So go ahead and tell me what you think. Which type of mount do you use and why? That's a big thing, because since I've put this type of explanation forward, I haven't heard any really good reasons as to why I should go back to absolute co-witness mounts or anything like that. Because yes, I've used both a lot, and I've just stuck to lower 1/3 mounts. like forward from that. And just from all the little things that I've noticed, shooting in the dark or having to use irons or whatever it is. So go ahead and leave it in the comments box below. If you want to take this discussion further or ask any different questions, I'll take those questions in the comments below. Or you can go to our Facebook page. That's got like over 10,000 people on it. Yay. Nobody cares but me, but that's cool. You know, so it is what it is. Read our about before you join us, please. And remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.